Hello to all. In this first chapter of tutorials for PTE AV Studio, we will give you a brief description of the commands of this program. Some will be more useful to you than others, depending on the type of documents you want to create, but it is good to know them. So let's open our program. To be able to access all the commands, we must be in Edit mode, Timeline. Click on this command at the bottom right to switch to this mode. Like most Windows programs, the main window is composed of the command menu bar, the quick command button bar, the file exploration window, the view window of your montage, a timeline quick command bar, the timeline, an editing command bar for your project, and finally, a status bar. Let's look at this in a bit more detail. First, the menu bar. It is made up of 7 drop-down menus, each grouping a certain type of command. The first, File, contains the standard commands for opening and saving your projects. The second, Create, contains the commands to view, or create, either a video in different types, or an executable file, or even a screensaver, from your project. These commands are repeated by the buttons on the right on your quick command bar. The third, Project, contains the undo and redo commands, which are also available in the quick command bar, and the command project option, which is also available in the edit bar. The fourth, Audio, allows you to manage your audio tracks inserted into your project. Attention, the addition of main tracks and sound files must be done by another command. We will see that in the appropriate chapter. The fifth, View, allows you to manage the views in your timeline, to add, remove or duplicate them. This will also be described in an appropriate chapter. The sixth, Settings, allows you to select the language of the program, plus a whole series of settings for it. And finally the seventh, Help, as its name suggests, allows you to access help and information about your program. In the quick basic command line, you will find the commands. New project, which will create a new empty project which you can set the name and format of in the pop-up window that opens with this command. Open an existing project, an Explorer window opens when using this command. Save your project, as for the command Open, it opens an Explorer to define the name and location of your backup. The undo and redo commands. The base folder used by the program to play and save your projects. A command to set the size of the thumbnails in the File Explorer window, and a command allowing you to open the Explorer window in full screen mode. You can close the latter with the command Close, located at the bottom left. On the right, as said before, you have the basic controls for previewing and creating your project. You will ask yourself, but why a preview command? Since we have the view window and we can see our project there. I also asked myself the question, and the answer came to me when I used advanced functions of the program, such as jumping to defined views, pauses, and/or repeating views, because, in the view window, when you play your animation, the views are played in the order of the timeline, from the first to the last, without stops or interruptions, whereas in the preview, click or key commands are taken into account and influence the progress of viewing project. We will also see this as we learn. The exploration and visualization windows are of the standard type, and do not require further description. Just the timeline command bar, containing the standard playback commands, plus, to their left, some editing commands that we'll also see in due course and which are only accessible in timeline mode. The timeline montage table can be of two different types. Basic, and first, in the form of a succession of thumbnails creating your montage. In this form, you cannot modify or view the audio tracks of your montage. Click on the command, Timeline, at the bottom right, to display your timeline in relation to the real time, as well as all your audio files. We will see that this will be very useful to us when inserting audio tracks in our montage. To return to label mode, click on the command, Views, bottom right. The editing bar, containing on the right, the commands of the timeline that we have just seen, and on the left, the four main commands opening the editing menus of your project. First, your project options. This menu, made up of 7 submenus, allows you to, in main, define the characteristics of your project. In sound, to add and manage the soundtracks of your project. As said before, it is in this tab that we will add our audio tracks, and we will devote a chapter to it. In transitions, you will be able to define the default parameters of the transitions added automatically between your views. We will also see in an appropriate chapter, the modification of the transitions view by view. Under Screen, you can manage the display mode and the insertion of a watermark in your montage. Under Defaults, you will be able to define some default parameters applied to your objects. And finally, under Advanced, you can modify certain parameters for the creation of an executable file, to protect it with a password, or to launch a third-party application or another assembly at the end of the visualization of your project. Second, we have the view configuration. This command, and the two following ones, are only accessible if there is at least one view in your project, and one view is selected. It then opens an edit window for the selected view, in which you can specify parameters specific to each view, as well as the transition used at the start of the view. This window will also be the subject of a chapter. In third, we have Styling and Themes app for your view. It will allow you to directly apply pre-created styles to the selected view, as well as to create and manage the styles present on your computer. This too will be the subject of a specific chapter. And finally, the Objects and Animation window. It is in this window that we will create all our montages. It is also the most important window of the program, containing a good number of commands, and 2 submenus. Properties, in which we will define the properties of each element, and the Animation, in which, as its name indicates, we will animate our elements. Let's close this window, and finally, at the very bottom of the screen, you have information on the selected element. Here, try to familiarize yourself with these basic commands, so, in the following chapters, I will no longer have to specify each command performed or used. We have reached the end of this chapter describing the command bases of the PTE program. In the next chapter, we will see how to create our first project. See you soon. Katrina and Patrick.